The arrival of the Deathworlder. Armada changed everything. Part 1. First Contact. The galaxy had been peaceful for 10,000 years. The gentle species of the cosmos had built a beautiful civilization together. The Vellani were tall, bird-like creatures with soft feathers and kind eyes. The Mori were beings made of living crystal who sang when they spoke. The Talak were small amphibious creatures who loved to trade and tell stories. Together they had formed the Galactic Union. The Union believed that all intelligent life was peaceful. They thought that war was something that only primitive species did before they became wise. They had no armies. They had no weapons. They had forgotten what fear felt like. Admiral Yuna was old, even by Vellani standards. Her feathers had turned silver long ago, and she spent most of her days watching the stars from her observation deck. Her job was simple. She watched the borders of Union space and made sure nothing dangerous came close. In 300 years, nothing ever had. That changed on a quiet morning when her sensors began to scream. Yuna rushed to her command chair, her old bones protesting with every step. Her crew looked at her with wide, frightened eyes. None of them had ever seen an alert like this before. "What is it?" Yuna asked, her voice shaking slightly. Her young officer, a Mori named Crystalline Voice, pointed at the display with a trembling limb. "Ships, Admiral. Many ships. They are coming out of fold space at the edge of our territory." Yuna looked at the numbers and felt her heart stop. 3,000 vessels. Each one was massive, covered in armor and weapons. They looked like they had been in many battles. Their hulls were scarred and burned, but they kept flying. They looked like predators. The ships began broadcasting a message. It came in hundreds of different languages, as if these newcomers had met many species before. The message was simple. "We are the Terran Expeditionary Fleet. We come in peace. We need fuel and supplies. We are looking for information about a species called the Harak Dominion. Please respond." Yuna had never heard of the Harak Dominion. She had never heard of the Terrans either. She immediately sent a message to the Galactic Council, telling them that something very strange was happening. The council met within hours. All the leaders of the Union gathered in their great hall, a beautiful dome made of crystal and light. They were all afraid, though they tried to hide it. "Who are these creatures?" asked High Speaker Vellani, the oldest and wisest of them all. "Where do they come from?" A young scientist named Bright Mind, a Talak who studied planets and stars, stepped forward nervously. "I have searched our records," she said. "These beings call themselves humans. They come from a planet called Earth, in a distant part of the galaxy we have never explored." "What do we know about this Earth?" the High Speaker asked. Bright Mind's skin turned pale, which meant she was very scared. "It is a Class 12 death world, High Speaker." The room went silent. Everyone knew what a death world was. They were planets so dangerous that no intelligent life should be able to survive there. The Union avoided such worlds completely. "Explain," the High Speaker commanded. "Earth has very strong gravity," Bright Mind said. "Much stronger than our worlds. Its atmosphere contains oxygen, which is a corrosive gas that can burn and destroy. The planet has extreme temperature changes. It has massive storms, earthquakes, and volcanic eruptions. Every part of the land and sea contains predators. By all our scientific models, intelligent life should not be able to evolve there." "But it did," said a quiet voice. Everyone turned to look at the young diplomat who had spoken. His name was Do Hyun, and he was known for being calm and thoughtful. He was also known for being very brave. "It did evolve there," Do Hyun continued. "And now they are here, with 3,000 warships. I think we should talk to them before we decide to be afraid." The council argued for many hours. Some wanted to hide, some wanted to run. Some wanted to pretend the humans did not exist. But in the end, They realized that Do-yun was right. They needed to understand these newcomers. Do-yun volunteered to make first contact. Many tried to stop him. They said it was too dangerous. They said the humans would kill him. But Do-yun simply smiled and said, "If they wanted to kill us, they would not have asked for permission to talk." His small shuttle flew toward the human fleet. As he got closer, he saw just how big their ships really were. Each vessel was like a small moon, covered in weapons and armor. They were not beautiful like Union ships. They were practical. They were built for war. The flagship was called the Soul's Pride. It was the largest ship Do-yun had ever seen. As his shuttle entered its landing bay, he saw humans for the first time. They were smaller than he expected. They stood on two legs like the Vellani, but they had no feathers. Their skin came in different colors, and they wore matching uniforms. They moved with a strange grace, their eyes constantly watching everything around them. A human female approached his shuttle. She had short, dark hair and eyes that seemed to look right through him. She wore more decorations on her uniform than the others, which meant she was important. "Welcome aboard the Soul's Pride," she said. Her voice was calm and confident. "I am Fleet Admiral Tae-hee. You must be the brave soul they sent to meet us." Do-yun stepped out of his shuttle, trying not to show his fear. "I am Ambassador Do-hyun of the Galactic Union. We received your message. We have questions." Admiral Tae-hee smiled. It was a strange expression, showing her teeth, but somehow it did not seem threatening. "I am sure you do," she said. "Come, let me show you who we are. I think you will find us very interesting." She turned and walked deeper into the ship. Do-hyun followed her, not knowing that this moment would change the history of the galaxy forever. The arrival of the Deathworlder Armada changed everything. Part 2. The Weight of Earth. Admiral Tae-hee led Do-hyun through the corridors of the Soul's Pride. The ship was enormous, like a flying city. Thousands of humans lived and worked here. They walked past Do-hyun without fear, looking at him with curiosity but not hostility. Do-hyun noticed many things about the humans. They were dense and compact, their bodies packed with muscle. They moved with an easy confidence, like predators who knew they were at the top of the food chain. Their eyes were always moving, always watching, always aware of their surroundings. "You seem nervous," Tae-hee said without looking back. "That is understandable. We know how we appear to other species." "How do you appear?" Do-yun asked carefully. Tae-hee stopped and turned to face him. Her expression was kind but serious. "Terrifying," she said simply. "We appear terrifying, and honestly, that is fair." She led him to a large observation room with windows looking out at the stars. She offered him a seat and something to drink. The liquid was water, which Do-hyun could consume safely. He was grateful for her thoughtfulness. "Let me tell you about Earth," Tae-hee began. "Our home is beautiful, but it is also deadly. Everything on our planet is trying to survive. And survival often means killing something else." She showed him images on a large screen. Do-hyun saw forests full of massive predators. He saw oceans hiding creatures with hundreds of teeth. He saw deserts that could kill in hours and mountains that touched the sky. He saw storms that destroyed entire cities and earthquakes that swallowed the ground. "We evolved in this world," Tae-hee continued. "Our bodies adapted to survive everything it threw at us. We can heal from wounds that would kill other species. We can survive extreme heat and extreme cold. We can eat foods that are poisonous to most life forms." "How is that possible?" Do-hyun whispered. Tae-hee smiled that strange smile again. "Evolution, competition, stubbornness. Our ancestors were not the strongest animals on Earth. They were not the fastest. They were not the biggest. But they had one advantage that nothing else had. What was that? They never stopped." Tae-hee's eyes grew distant, as if she was seeing something far away. Humans are persistence hunters. When our ancestors wanted to catch prey, they did not chase it down quickly. They followed it. For hours, for days. They walked and walked and walked until their prey collapsed from exhaustion. We do not give up. We cannot give up. It is not in our nature. Over the next few weeks, Do-hyun learned more about humanity. He met many crew members and heard their stories. He learned that humans needed only a few hours of sleep and could function for days without any rest at all. He learned that they consumed things called caffeine and alcohol for pleasure, even though these substances were toxic. He learned that they found joy in physical pain and called it exercise. But what truly frightened Do-hyun was their history. Commander Ji-woo, Tae-hee's second-in-command, showed him records of human civilization. Do-hyun saw wars that killed millions. He saw weapons that could destroy entire cities in a single flash of light. He saw humans fighting each other over land, over resources, over ideas. For thousands of years they had been at war with themselves. "We are not proud of our past," Ji-woo said quietly. She was a serious woman with sharp eyes and quick hands. "We did terrible things to each other. We almost destroyed our own planet. We came very close to making ourselves extinct." "But you did not," Do-hyun said. Ji-woo shook her head. "No. At the last moment, when everything seemed lost, we chose differently. We realized that we could either destroy ourselves or work together. We chose to work together." Do-hyun spent many evenings talking with Admiral Tae-hee. He learned about the Harak Dominion, the enemy the humans were hunting. The Harak were slavers who attacked a human colony called New Busan. They killed 2 million people and took 50,000 as slaves. "We pursued them across 10,000 light years," Tae-hee said. Her voice was calm, but her eyes were hard. "We will find them, and we will free our people." "What will you do to the Harak?" Do-hyun asked. Tae-hee was quiet for a long moment. "Whatever is necessary," she finally said. "We do not enjoy violence, Ambassador, but we will not allow our people to suffer. We will not allow innocents to be enslaved. If the Harak choose to fight, we will end them." Do-hyun believed her. He had seen the humans train for combat. They practiced fighting every day, keeping their bodies and minds sharp. They were not cruel or savage. They were disciplined. They were prepared. They were ready to do terrible things so that others would not have to. One night, Do-hyun asked the question that had been bothering him since he arrived. "Admiral, you have the power to conquer the galaxy. Your ships are stronger than anything we have. Why do you not simply take what you want?" Tae-hee looked at him with something that might have been sadness. "Because we learned the hard way that power without purpose is meaningless. We spent thousands of years fighting for dominance, and it brought us nothing but pain. Now we fight for something better." "What do you fight for?" Tae-hee stood and walked to the window. The stars reflected in her dark eyes. "We fight for those who cannot fight for themselves. We protect the weak. We stand against the darkness. Not because we are good, Ambassador. We know what we are capable of. We fight because we choose to be better than our worst instincts." Do-hyun watched her standing there, this small woman who commanded 3,000 warships, and he realized something important. The humans were not monsters. They were something far more complicated. They were predators who had chosen to become guardians. They were killers who had chosen to become protectors. They carried the weight of their terrible history, and they used it to make themselves stronger. Do-hyun was no longer afraid of the humans. He was beginning to admire them. The arrival of the Deathworlder Armada changed everything. Part 3. The Council's Choice. The Galactic Council gathered once again in their great crystal hall. This time, Ambassador Do-hyun stood before them with Commander Ji-woo at his side. The human officer looked calm and confident, even though she was surrounded by thousands of aliens who feared her species. Do-hyun had spent a month aboard the Soul's Pride. He had learned everything he could about humans. Now he had to convince the council to make the hardest decision in their history. "The Harak Dominion is coming," Do-hyun announced. His voice echoed through the vast chamber. "They are heading directly toward Union space. They will arrive in approximately 4 months." The council erupted in noise. The Vallani chirped in alarm. The Mori hummed with distress. The Talak splashed nervously in their water platforms. High Speaker Vallani raised his ancient wings for silence. "How do you know this?" he demanded. Commander Jiwoo stepped forward and activated a holographic display. Images appeared in the air, showing massive ships covered in spikes and chains. They were ugly and brutal, designed to inspire fear. "We have been tracking the Dominion for 2 years, Jiwoo explained. Her voice was steady and professional. "They are a slaver empire. They conquer worlds, enslave the population, and strip the planets of all resources. Then they move on to the next target." She showed them records of Harak atrocities. Do-hyun had already seen these images, but they still made him feel sick. Cities burned, people in chains, species wiped out completely. The Harak did not see other beings as people. They saw them as property. "They have consumed 17 civilizations," Jiwoo continued. "Billions of beings now serve as their slaves. They breed them, work them to death, and replace them with new captives. It never stops." "Why are they coming here?" asked a Talak council member. "Because you are here," Jiwoo said bluntly. "You have resources, you have technology, you have billions of people who could serve as slaves. The Harak do not negotiate. They do not make peace, they only take." The council was silent, overwhelmed by fear. These peaceful beings had never faced anything like this. They had no armies, no weapons, no experience with war. They were completely helpless. High Speaker Vallani spoke slowly. "And what do the humans want from us?" "An alliance," Jiwoo replied. "We will defend you against the Harak. We will fight them and destroy their fleet. In exchange, we ask only for fuel, supplies, and permission to operate in your space." "You would fight for us?" the High Speaker asked, his voice full of disbelief. "Why? What do you gain?" Jiwoo was quiet for a moment. When she spoke again, her voice was softer. "We gain nothing except the knowledge that we protected innocent lives. We came to this region of space hunting the Harak. We did not expect to find you, but now that we have, we cannot abandon you. It is not who we are." The council began to argue. Many of them were horrified by the idea of allying with humans. They had heard the stories about Earth. They knew what humans were capable of doing. "These creatures are violent by nature," declared one Mori council member. "They admit that they nearly destroyed themselves." "How can we trust them? What stops them from conquering us once the Harak are gone?" "Nothing stops us," said a new voice. Everyone turned to look at the human who had spoken. She was young, with kind eyes and gentle features. Her name was Yoonji, and she was a scientist who had been studying aboard a Union research station when the fleet arrived. "Nothing stops us except choice," Yoonji continued, stepping forward. "I am a xenobiologist. I study alien life. I have lived among you for 3 years, and I have come to love your cultures and your people. Humans are capable of terrible things. We know this better than anyone." She paused and looked around the room, meeting the eyes of every council member. "But we are also capable of choosing to be better. Every single day, we make that choice. We choose kindness over cruelty. We choose protection over conquest. We choose to stand between the darkness and those who cannot defend themselves." The chamber was silent. Yoonji's words hung in the air like something holy. "We cannot force you to trust us," Yoonji said. "We can only show you through our actions. Let us fight for you. Let us prove what we are." The vote took many hours. In the end, the council was split exactly in half. They could not agree on whether to accept the human alliance. Some were too afraid. Some could not believe that predators could be trusted. High Speaker Villani made the final decision. The Union would not officially ally with the humans, but they would not stop them either. The humans could have their fuel and supplies. They could operate in Union space, but the Union would not join the fight. Do-hyun was disappointed but not surprised. His people had lived in peace too long. They had forgotten that sometimes peace must be protected with strength. After the vote, Do-hyun approached Admiral Tae-hee, who had been watching from a private chamber. "I am sorry," Do-hyun said. "My people are afraid." Tae-hee nodded. "Fear is reasonable. We are scary, but we will protect them anyway. That's what we do." Do-hyun made a decision in that moment, a decision that would change his life forever. "I want to come with you," he said. "I want to serve as a liaison aboard your ship. I want to see this through." Tae-hee studied him for a long moment. Then she smiled. "You are braver than you know, Ambassador. Welcome aboard the Soul's Pride." As Do-hyun walked away from the council chamber, he felt a strange mix of emotions. Fear of what was coming, hope that the humans were everything they claimed to be, and a small, growing sense of pride. He was no longer just watching history. He was becoming part of it. The arrival of the Deathworlder Armada changed everything. Part 4. The Battle of the Crimson Nebula. The Herrick Dominion fleet arrived at the edge of the Crimson Nebula on a cold morning. Do-hyun stood on the bridge of the Soul's Pride, watching the enemy ships emerge from fold space like monsters rising from the deep. There were 15,000 of them. The humans had only 3,000 ships. They were outnumbered 5-1. Any sane species would retreat. Any sane species would run. Admiral Tae-hee smiled. "All ships, battle formation," she commanded. Her voice was calm and steady, as if she was ordering breakfast instead of preparing for war. "Today we show the Herrick what happens when they attack humanity." The human fleet moved like a single organism. Ships slid into position, weapons powered up, shields activated. Do-hyun had never seen anything so coordinated, so precise, so deadly. The Herrick commander sent a message. He was a large creature with gray skin and too many eyes. His voice was harsh and cruel. "Surrender your ships and your people. Become our slaves, and we will allow you to live. Resist, and we will destroy you." Tae-hee pressed a button on her command chair. Her response was broadcast to both fleets. "I am Fleet Admiral Tae-hee of the Terran Expeditionary Fleet. You attacked our colony. You killed our people. You took our children as slaves." Her voice grew cold and hard. "We have crossed 10,000 light years to find you. We have not come to negotiate. We have come to end you." She cut the transmission and looked at her crew. "All ships, attack." The battle began. Do-hyun had never seen violence like this. Human ships charged forward, firing weapons that turned space itself into fire. The Herrick fought back with their own terrible weapons, but the humans did not stop. They pushed forward through the explosions and the death. 3 human ships were destroyed in the first hour. Their crews did not retreat. They kept fighting until the very end, crashing their burning vessels into enemy ships and taking their killers with them. The humans fought with a fury that Do-hyun could not understand. They took damage that would have broken any other fleet. Ships lost engines and kept fighting. Ships lost weapons and rammed their enemies. Ships lost everything and still refused to die. Commander Ji-woo coordinated the attack from beside Tae-hee. Her voice never wavered as she directed thousands of ships, adjusting tactics in real time, finding weaknesses in the enemy formation. "Fighter Squadron 7, attack their carrier's weak point. Cruiser Group 12, cover the hospital ships. Battleship Soul's Fury, punch through their center line." Lieutenant Hyun-woo led a boarding party onto the Herrick flagship. Do-hyun watched the video feed in horror and amazement. The young officer and his team fought through corridors filled with enemies twice their size. They used weapons, fists, and anything else they could find. Hyun-woo was shot 3 times. He kept fighting. He wrapped bandages around his wounds without stopping and led his team deeper into the enemy ship. "Pain is just information," he said through gritted teeth. "And right now, the information says, keep moving." The Herrick tried psychological warfare. They broadcast the screams of their slaves through every channel, hoping to break the humans' will. It had the opposite effect. The human fleet fought harder. Their attacks became more aggressive, more precise, more devastating. They were not just fighting for victory anymore. They were fighting with righteous anger. Pilot Soo-jin flew her small fighter through a storm of enemy fire. Her ship was damaged, leaking fuel, barely holding together. She had a clear path to retreat. She could escape and survive. Instead, she aimed her broken fighter at the engine core of a massive Herrick carrier, a ship carrying 20,000 slaves. "Command, I am going in," she reported. Her voice was calm and peaceful. "Tell my mother I love her. Tell my sister to be brave, and tell those slaves that help is coming." She flew directly into the carrier's engine. The explosion destroyed the entire ship. But it also disabled the locks on the slave holds. Thousands of captives floated free, rescued by human shuttles moments later. Soo-jin's last transmission was a song, an old human war song about fighting for freedom. The entire fleet heard it. The battle lasted 18 hours. 18 hours of constant combat, constant death, constant impossible heroism. The humans took terrible losses. Over 500 ships were destroyed. Thousands of crew members died. But the Herrick lost more. When it was over, only a few hundred enemy ships remained. They tried to flee, but the humans chased them down. The military commanders were killed without mercy, but the slave transports were captured intact. Do-hyun helped with the rescue operation. He saw the slaves being freed from their chains. There were over 200,000 of them, representing 17 different species. They were thin and weak, covered in scars and burns. They could barely believe they were free. Among the rescued were several hundred Vellani, Do-hyun's own people. They had been captured in border raids that the Union never even knew about. A young Vellani female grabbed Do-hyun's arm. Her feathers were torn and dirty, but her eyes were full of tears. "They saved us," she whispered. "The humans saved us. We thought we would die as slaves, but they came for us." Do-hyun looked around at the human soldiers helping the freed slaves. They were exhausted and wounded, but they worked gently and carefully. They gave food and water. They treated injuries. They spoke softly to traumatized victims. These were the same warriors who had just fought with such terrible ferocity. These predators, these Deathworlders, these terrifying humans. They were crying as they helped the slaves. Do-hyun finally understood what humanity really was. They were not monsters who pretended to be kind. They were guardians who had learned to become warriors, and they had just saved the galaxy. The arrival of the Deathworlder Armada changed everything. Part 5. A New Dawn. The news of the Battle of the Crimson Nebula spread across the galaxy like fire. Every species in the Galactic Union heard the story. The terrifying Deathworlders had faced an enemy 5 times their size and won. They had lost hundreds of ships and thousands of lives, and they had freed over 200,000 slaves. The Union Council met again, but this time the mood was different. There was no fear in the Crystal Hall. There was gratitude, there was shame, and there was hope. High Speaker Vellani stood before the assembly with his ancient head bowed. "We were wrong," he said simply. "We feared the humans because they were different. We refused to help them because we did not understand them, and while we hid in safety, they fought and died to protect us." The vote was unanimous. The Galactic Union offered the humans full alliance status. They would be partners, friends, and brothers in the great family of civilizations. Admiral Tehi accepted the offer with grace. She stood before the council, still wearing her battle uniform, still carrying wounds from the fight. "We are honored by your trust," she said. "But let me be clear about something. We will not rule you. We will not command you. We are not your masters. We are your partners. We stand beside you, not above you." The alliance changed everything. Humans spread throughout Union space, but not as conquerors. They came as teachers and helpers. They built hospitals on worlds that had never known medicine. They created schools where children of all species could learn together. They shared their technology freely, asking nothing in return except friendship. Scientist Yunji led a research team that developed new treatments for diseases that had killed millions. She worked alongside Mori and Villani and Talak scientists, combining their knowledge with human ingenuity. Together they saved more lives than the battle had taken. Commander Jiwoo stayed in Union space and began training volunteers for the 1st Galactic Defense Force. She was patient and kind, teaching peaceful species how to protect themselves without losing their gentleness. "Fighting is not about anger," she told her students. "It is about protecting what you love. You can be soft and strong at the same time." Lieutenant Hyunwoo, now promoted to captain, commanded a patrol ship that guarded the frontier. His crew was mixed, humans and Villani and Mori working together. They became legends, known for their bravery and their kindness. Ambassador Do-hyun was chosen to be the first Union representative to Earth. He traveled across the galaxy to the Death World that had created humanity. He was nervous during the entire journey, wondering what he would find. When his ship entered the Sol system, Do-hyun saw Earth for the first time. It hung in space like a blue and green jewel, beautiful beyond words. He saw the oceans that covered most of its surface. He saw the continents where humans had fought and loved and dreamed. He saw the clouds that brought the terrible storms. It was deadly. It was gorgeous. It was home to the most incredible species he had ever known. Do-hyun landed in a city called New Seoul. It had been rebuilt after something humans called the Climate Wars, a terrible time when they had almost destroyed their world. Now it was beautiful, full of trees and gardens and laughing children. President Minho welcomed him personally. He was an old man with kind eyes and hands covered in scars from a lifetime of work. He smiled warmly as Do-hyun approached. "Welcome to Earth, Ambassador," Minho said. "I hope the gravity is not too uncomfortable." It was, actually. Do-hyun felt like he was carrying stones on his shoulders, but he did not complain. He understood now why humans were so strong. They had evolved under this crushing weight. "We know what the galaxy thinks of us," Minho said as they walked through the city. "They think we are violent and dangerous, and perhaps we are, but we have learned something important in our long and bloody history." "What have you learned?" Do-hyun asked. Minho stopped and looked up at the sky. Somewhere out there among the stars, humans and aliens were building a new future together. "Strength without kindness is cruelty," Minho said, "and kindness without strength is helplessness. We choose to be both strong and kind. Every day we choose. That is what makes us human." In the years that followed, the galaxy transformed. The old fears faded away. Humans and aliens worked together, building things that neither could have built alone. Trade flourished. Science advanced. Children grew up in a universe where different species were friends, not strangers. Admiral Tae-hee retired to a quiet planet in Union space. She grew flowers and wrote her memoirs telling the story of humanity's journey to the stars. Do-hyun visited her often, and they would sit together watching the sunset, talking about everything and nothing. One evening, Tae-hee asked him a question. "Were you ever truly afraid of us?" Do-yun thought about it for a long time. He remembered his first sight of the human fleet. He remembered the terror he had felt boarding the Soul's Pride. He remembered watching humans fight with impossible ferocity. Terrified, he admitted. But then I learned the truth. What truth? Do-yun smiled, his feathers warm in the fading light. That the most dangerous species in the galaxy chose to be gentle. You had the power to destroy everything. Instead, you chose to protect everyone. That choice made all the difference. A century later, a monument stood at the center of Union space. It showed humans and aliens standing together, hands and wings and tentacles joined in friendship. The inscription was written in every language known to civilization. From a world of death, they brought life. From a history of war, they chose peace. They did not ask to be guardians. They simply could not bear to be anything else. Remember the humans. Remember what they chose to be. And across the galaxy, on every world and in every language, the story was told to children. The arrival of the Deathworlder Armada changed everything. For the better, forever.